Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lucy Lawyer, and I am representing the murdered Carlos Zem. We are here today to decide if the defendant Meursault is guilty of first-degree murder, worthy of death by guillotine. We will show how the accused has openly admitted to murdering Carlos and shows no remorse for his actions. We will dive into the death of his mother and show how the event has changed him into a relentless murderer. Witnesses will testify on the unusuality of Meursault and how intelligent he is, only adding to the proof of premeditation. The victim had cut Meursault's friend, Raymond, with a knife just hours earlier in a fight Meursault witnessed but did not participate in. Raymond and Meursault had then come across the same individual again just a few minutes before the killing. Raymond had contemplated renewing the combat or simply shooting the Arab, Mr. Zem, and Meursault convinced Raymond not to shoot and then persuaded Raymond to hand him the gun so he could do the dirty work himself. The victim is the brother of a girl that Raymond had assaulted several days earlier, a girl who Meursault had written a letter to. She was Raymond's ex-girlfriend and the victim's sister, and he had attacked her and practically forced her to come back to an abusive relationship. A confrontation had been brewing ever since then. Thus, there's both planning activity and a prior relationship which may indicate motive. With this and the case I am about to bring enlightenment to, I ask the jury, please, make the right call for the sake of the morality of society. Show Meursault no mercy and sentence him to death.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luna Lawyer, and I am representing the defendant, Meursault. We are here today to decide if the defendant is guilty of the murder of Carlos Zem. On that day, Meursault was at his friend's house. He had left to go there in the morning with his friend Raymond and Marie. While on the way to Raymond's beach house in Algiers, the three friends were being watched by Zem and his friends. He arrived safely at the bungalow and began to have a fun day with his friends, enjoying the nice weather and scenery. He went for a swim with his friends and then decided to go on a walk with Raymond and Meursault. On their walk, they came across a group of Zem and his friends, one of whom was the guy that had previously been stalking them on the way to their beach. Provoked by the Arabs, they got into a fight that ends with Raymond's arm being sliced open. He goes to the doctor to get it repaired and returns to go on a walk down the beach again. Meursault doesn't plan on going, but ends up deciding to go to accompany Raymond and Meursault down the beach. Raymond gets worked up when they come across Zem and his friends again, but Meursault talks him down from shooting them if not provoked and takes the gun from Raymond. They go home and Meursault decides to continue his walk on the beach and comes across Zem again while going to a spring to try to cool down. When Zem sees Meursault, he puts his hand in his pocket reaching for his knife. Meursault steps forward and the Arab grabs his knife. Responding to the threat, Meursault grabs his gun and shoots Zem, killing him. Throughout the events of the day, Meursault repetitively avoids and prevents conflict by showing his lack of desire to kill. At the end of this trial, I hope that you will find Meursault not guilty of first-degree murder and not subject to the death penalty.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? The prosecution calls Mr. Zappo Crux to the stand. So, Zappo, who are you?
One of Carlos's bros.
And how did he pass?
He was shot a total of 5 times in a brutal attack of vengeance.
And so where did this occur?
It occurred at the beach by Raymond's house.
Why were you on the beach that day?
Because we wanted to give Raymond and Meursault a little scare because Raymond had been abusing Carlos' sister, and nobody should be getting away with anything like that. And Meursault even was a witness to Raymond and wrote the letter that lured Justine to get beaten by Raymond. And it was apparent that they were getting away with their crimes, so we wanted to let them know that it still wasn't okay even if they didn't get convicted. And we were never actually planning on hurting them, we just wanted to give them a scare.
No further questions.
Were you there when the murder occurred?
No, I was resting after being brutally attacked on the beach, as was my brother from another mother, Carlos.
Is there any reason why you abandoned him and your friends?
We did not abandon him. We all left to go back and rest, and while we were resting, Carlos said he needed some fresh air after the overwhelming attack, so we just went to go rest on the beach.
Okay. When you first came across Meursault on the beach, did any conflict happen?
Yeah.
And did anyone get injured?
Yeah, but pure accident.
Okay, what was the injury?
Just like a knife cut on the hand or something, nothing serious.
Okay, and he had to go to the hospital?
I don't know his life.
Okay, but so he had to go to the hospital and that was an accident?
I can't assume that, but yeah, just because someone goes to the hospital doesn't
Okay.
mean it was on an accident.
Okay, well, was Meursault part of this fight?
No, but I could tell. His eyes had darts in them.
Okay, no further questions.
The prosecution calls Jimmy Ventrez from the director to come here. So, what is your relation to Mr. Meursault?
I saw him at his mom's funeral.
And what was his face like? How did he act at this funeral?
He's too calm for the circumstances. He wasn't very emotional compared to most people.
And then you worked with Madame Meursault, correct?
Yep.
Did she want to be in that home?
No, she was upset that she got put in there.
No further questions.
People ever act differently than usual at a funeral?
Yeah, they always do. They're always upset and sad.
Yeah, but are there ever people who just don't show too many emotions because they haven't become emotional after
None that I've
the death
seen.
yet? Okay.
That's not normal.
Did he say or do anything that would lead you to believe that he was thinking of murdering someone?
Well, he didn't think or do anything, so I wouldn't put it past him.
No further questions.
Prosecution calls Leonard Char to the stand. So, Mr. Char, what is your profession?
I'm the caretaker at the funeral home.
And have you ever seen Mr. Meursault before?
Yeah, I was there when he had the funeral for his mom.
And so how did he act at this funeral?
He was smoking and drinking and just a little reckless compared to other people.
Did you see Mr. Thomas Perez there? The close friend of Madame Meursault?
Oh, yes, I did.
And how was he acting at the funeral?
He was really distraught over her death.
A friend, not a family member?
Yeah.
And did you offer Mr. Meursault anything?
I asked him if he wanted some coffee.
And did he accept it?
No, he didn't.
No further questions.
Did you ever see Meursault outside of the context of the funeral?
No, which is quite strange though, because I'm actually a resident of the home, so I would have expected him to visit his sick mother more.
Mm-hmm. Were you there when the alleged murder happened?
No, I was at the nursing home.
Did you ever hear him saying anything about the murder?
No, I never heard him say anything, except to refuse my coffee. And besides that though, he acted quite like a psychopath if you ask me. Just out of the ways of the world. He didn't care for his mother, and from his actions, I wouldn't be surprised if he murdered someone.
Okay, but did you ever actually hear anything where he said that that he was going to murder anyone or anything like that?
No, but it could be inferred.
Okay, no further questions.
You're filming.
The defense calls its first witness, Mr. Meursault. First question, why did you go to the beach house?
I was invited by my friends.
Okay, how many times did you see Mr. Zem that day?
4.
What happened the first time that you saw him?
Well, I was on my way to the beach while we were waiting for the bus, and we saw him stalking us.
Okay, what happened the second time?
My friends and I got in a fight with him.
What caused the fight?
One of the Arabs stepped towards Raymond.
And were you in any way involved in this fight?
No, I was just there.
Okay. What happened the third time you saw Mr. Zem?
Raymond wanted to go down for a walk by the beach, and I went with him and we saw him there.
Okay, and did another fight happen?
No, but Raymond was getting worked up, and I persuaded him not to get into an attack or attack the guy.
So you stopped him from seeking revenge on Mr. Zem?
Yes, I told him he couldn't shoot the defenseless guy without being provoked.
Okay, so twice you avoided and stopped conflict. What happened the third? the fourth time?
I was walking down the beach and I came across Mr. Zem.
Okay, did you plan to kill him?
No, I was just going for a walk.
How did you end up in the same place that Mr. Zem was at?
There's a spring behind the rock that I was going to because I was really hot.
Okay, and what caused the conflict?
He reached for his knife, so I put my hand in my pocket with my gun.
Who pulled their weapon first?
He pulled his knife.
And that's when you shot him?
Yes.
No further questions.
Good evening, Mr. Meursault. How are you?
Wonderful. How about you?
Okay. So, when you went back to the beach, why were you armed?
Because earlier when I went to the beach with Raymond, he was trying to get revenge on Mr. Zem, so I took his gun so he couldn't shoot.
And how many times did you shoot Mr. Zem?
5.
And why did you shoot the additional 4 times?
Because he was already dead, so it doesn't matter.
And why did you pause between the fatal shot and those that were just for fun?
It was a slight mental pause, because I was thinking about how he ruined my day.
Did you feel any pleasure while shooting Zem?
No,
Did you feel anything?
he ruined my day.
Do you have any remorse for this man?
Remorse is just a feeling, and I don't know my feelings.
Okay. And were you more worried that you had just upset the air of the day or the fact that you just taken a man's life?
That's the same thing.
Why did you put your mother in the home?
Because at that home, they could care for her better than I could.
Do you feel guilty for her death there?
No.
What did you do after your mother's death?
I just lived my life.
And did you ever have contact with Mr. Zem's sister, Janice?
Yes.
What form?
A letter.
And what was the contents of this letter?
To get her to go back to Raymond.
And why did you write this letter?
Raymond told me to.
Did you have any knowledge or thoughts of what Raymond would do if she returned to him?
Nope.
Why did he do nothing? Why did you do nothing when you heard her getting beaten? Why did you wait for another to get the police?
Because I wasn't sure that she was actually getting beaten.
Even when standing around a door hearing screams?
There are other things that can cause people to scream.
What was Zem doing when you found him?
Lying on his back, chillaxing.
Okay, we'll do a little edit. Why did you approach him?
The sun was shining in my face.
No, what is he doing? No further questions.
Defense would like to call Raymond to the stand. Have you ever had any problems with Zem before the day at the beach?
Oh yeah, he stalked me.
Okay, and was he with other people when he stalked you?
Yeah, he was always with a group of friends.
And did you find this behavior to be threatening?
Well, yeah, a giant group of them versus just me, that could have ended badly.
Okay, so then when you went to the beach, you had a conflict with him, and did you ever plan on hurting them?
No, they came after me first.
Okay, and what happened during this conflict?
I was stabbed and had to go to the doctor.
And so after you went to the doctor, you returned and went on a walk on the beach, and you came across them again. What were you trying to do?
Seek revenge, you know. I don't like people trying to cut me.
Okay, so why didn't you?
Meursault talked me out of it. He said I shouldn't kill a man.
And did Meursault ever express any harsh feelings towards Zem and his friends?
No, never. He never even got involved in that first fight. He just talked me out of seeking revenge.
Okay, no further questions.
So, what is your relation with Mr. Carlos, his sister Janice?
She's my ex.
And why were you upset with her?
Because she went and cheated on me.
Do you actually know she was cheating on you?
I'm pretty sure.
And so you wanted to punish her for this?
Yeah.
And
Well, I wanted to be the one that kicked her out.
So then why did you abuse her?
Well, I mean, she slapped me first, so.
And why did she slap you?
Because I spit in her face, but that doesn't, just because I spit in her face doesn't mean she has the right to slap me.
And why didn't Meursault help the girl when you were abusing her?
I mean, I don't really know, but he had no way of knowing I was abusing her. I didn't really, walk up to him and be like, yo, I'm like beating up my girlfriend.
So why did you get Meursault involved then?
Because he wrote a letter to her to bring her back so then I could be the one to break up with her.
But was it not your choice to make her involved?
I mean,
Or to make him involved? Excuse me.
well, I just had to, I was the one that told him to write the letter.
And so why was Meursault on the beach that day?
Because I invited him to go to my house.
And why did you invite him?
So, just so we could have a fun day at the beach and hang out.
So, Mr. Judge, I'd like to say, I think we should have a later trial for Mr. Raymond on abusing his girlfriend and being an accomplice.
She hit me
No
first.
further
The defense would like to call Marie to the stand. How long have you known Meursault?
Well, since the day after his mother's death.
Okay, and so how did you guys meet?
He came up to me, I believe, and just asked me if I wanted to go to the beach.
Right after his mother's death?
Yes.
Okay. Has he ever expressed any harsh feelings towards anyone?
No.
Okay. And does he ever express any feelings, like, at all?
I can tell he loves me, but he could do a little better.
Okay, so has he ever, like, talked about anyone he hated or, like, anyone he wanted to seek revenge on or anything?
He's not much of a talker, so no.
Okay, so there were no signs that he gave you that he would have been, like, planning a murder or anything?
No. If anything, he was planning our wedding. We were supposed to be getting married by now.
Okay. No further questions.
What did you do the day you met Mr. Meursault?
We just, we went to the beach and we were hanging out there, and then we watched a comedy movie, and then we were just hanging out.
And what is your relation to the accused? Just say it
Well,
again.
we were going to get married. I was in love with him.
And would you do anything for your fiance?
I'd do most things for him. Anything's kind of a strong word, but a lot of things.
But would you do anything for love?
I mean, anything again is kind of a little bit of a specific term. I would do a lot of things for him.
Such as cover up a murder?
I don't know about that, but I definitely
No
would
further
like
questions.
go get him a
It's
coffee.
clear that this witness is biased and overwhelmed by her wedding. This man, if he can even be called that, is clearly guilty of murder. Let us start with his character. He has no merit to his name. He is guilty of killing his loving mother by sending her to a home to die where she did not want to go. At her funeral, he lacked any remorse and was seen smoking. The very next day, he was out partying with Marie. He left no time for grief, showing that he clearly didn't care about her death. This then builds into the next segment. He has shown no remorse for the killing of this honorable man, Mr. Zem. He has admitted to his crimes, yet he has yet to acknowledge the consequences and pure maliciousness of his crimes. This brings us to the crime at hand. This man is smart. He knows what he's doing and is aware of his crimes. He knows he is guilty, so the court here today should find him as such. Looking back, there is clear premeditation for this to be a vengeful attack. Meursault quickly became friends with the well-known thug Raymond. He wrote a letter to Janice, fully aware of what was to come, as Raymond had explained to him that he sought to punish her further. Later, when screams of terror could be heard down the hall, he merely looked on, not attempting to save the girl. He waited and waited until someone else did the right thing and called the police. We have it on record from the police officer who arrived at the scene that there were Meursault and others merely surrounding the door listening in. Furthermore, Meursault would go on to testify that Janice had been cheating on Raymond when we have no evidence except Raymond's word. This is where the premeditation comes to shine. Meursault and Raymond were being followed by Janice's brother and friends, as they wanted to give them a little scare for their horrid crimes. Raymond then initiated the conflict on the beach where Meursault watched. The slash given to Raymond further gave reason for Meursault to attack. While he took the gun from Raymond, he did so with full intention to use it. He found Mr. Zem resting on the beach and attacked him. As he shot 4 additional shots after the fatal shot, after a brief period of time, it shows that this is no mere accident. There was passion behind this crime and passion to kill. As the case State v. Taylor decided in 2010, the defendant cannot use any degree of force in self-defense unless the defendant is faced with an immediate attack. A man resting from a previous brawl on the ground, on his back, is no imminent attack. Thus, there was no action in self-defense, but an action of thought and taking advantage of a defenseless man. Carlos's life cannot be tossed away. The murderer must be punished. He must be sentenced to death for our safety, or else the next thing you know, it will be your sons or daughters, your family going down. He has no care for this world, so why should he be in it?
To start off, let's revisit some of the key weaknesses of prosecution's arguments. First, let's define the boundaries for the arguments that they can make. On trial today is Meursault for his role in the death of Mr. Zem. Prosecution brings up both Meursault's observed indifference in his mother's death and Raymond's role in beating his girlfriend. Let's remember that because the first is irrelevant to the murder of Mr. Zem and the second is not an action of Mr. Meursault, these cannot be considered in the trial. Next, let's examine his motive and his previous actions towards Zem. He wrote a letter to Zem's sister at the request of Raymond, which was a mistake, but shows no anger towards Zem. During the day at the beach, he avoided participating in the fight that happened early in the day. Then he talked Raymond out of killing Mr. Zem. Jury, does this sound to you like a man that would intentionally plan on murdering the very man he had been protecting earlier? For my client to be guilty of first-degree murder, the prosecution has the burden of proof to prove that within reasonable certainty, the death of Mr. Zem was carefully planned out by Mr. Meursault. But, jury, they have failed to do this. They have found no records or statements from anyone proving that Mr. Meursault planned this murder, and they have found no possible motive. Jury, this point has a clear verdict. Mr. Meursault had no premeditation of Mr. Zem's death, and a verdict of guilty of murder of the first degree would be grossly unjustified. In Edmond v. Florida, the Supreme Court ruled that the death penalty is only justified if the subject intended to kill and is convicted of first-degree murder. Additionally, the circumstances now required for the death penalty, a death penalty conviction, are a first-degree aggravated murder sentence, which requires aggravating circumstances like previous murder convictions, additional violent crimes, or brutal murder techniques used in the murder. Thus, a death sentence is not just in this case. Another case, People v. Anderson, examines a similar question. The ruling of the Anderson case emphasized that premeditation required a deliberate plan accomplished coolly and steadily according to a preconceived design. Because Mr. Meursault has no deliberate plan or preconceived design, he cannot in any circumstances be subject to the death penalty. Jury, I hope you will consider these facts and rule in our favor against a first-degree murder sentence and especially against the death penalty.
The facts. This dude deserves to die. Let's revisit the 1895 U.S. court case of Allen v. United States. In this trial for murder by shooting with a pistol, it appeared that the accused and the deceased had difficulties. That the accused, knowing that he was to meet the deceased, had armed himself with a pistol, just like Meursault had. That when they had met, the deceased and his companions were armed with sticks, something far too inferior to a gun. Now, is this not the same case we are hearing today? Meursault and his friend Raymond had beef with the Arabs. Although Meursault disarmed Raymond, he took the gun with action and planning to do the killing himself. His victim was lying on the ground, relaxing. Then he was approaching him, and the gun was clearly visible since he probably couldn't hide the bulkiness of that gun, you know? And so Carlos gripped his pocket, scared that he might need to protect himself from Meursault, who was aggravating him, and he was defenseless and killed. He brought a stick or a knife to a gun show, and he lost his life for it. In Allen's case, he also blamed the heat and made the stick seem more dangerous. Yet this is no excuse for murder. Allen ended up being guilty, just as we should see Meursault today. The cases are nearly identical, so we should make the result the same. Meursault didn't care for his mother, who was indirectly killed. He doesn't care for his fiancé. He doesn't care for his friends. He shouldn't be alive. We should put him under the guillotine, and we should see that he will have no fear for living or not. So for the good of humanity, we should just sentence him to death.
Yeah, see, but I think there's a really there's a key difference between that case and this case. In that Meursault didn't just grab the knife or grab the gun and like go there in order to kill him. He took the gun away from Raven to stop the.
Yeah, but he did that so he could do the killing
No,
himself.
he stopped it so Zem couldn't get killed by Raven.
You see, he took the gun. He might not have known exactly right then that he wanted to kill him, but this was all, like, the moment he saw him, he was just like, yes, I'm using this gun.
So in this case that you talk about, the guy with the gun, he was convicted, right? But was he sentenced to death?
He was convicted to what was just at that time. And at that time, they were using the death penalty around there in whatever courts this was going on at.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
But, you know, it still showed he wasn't being tried on whether or not he should be killed. He was being tried on different judges, whether or not he should be sentenced to life in prison.
Yeah, see, but for somebody to be sentenced to death, they have to have like clear, like strong motive before and go in to commit a violent crime. Meursault just grabbed the gun from Raymond to prevent somebody else from dying.
That might have been how he got the gun. But the moment he took it, he was just like, the moment he saw Carlos on the beach, he was just like, you're dead.
After a long 6 hours of debate, we, the jury, have found the accused guilty of first-degree murder, yet we do not advise the sentencing of the death penalty. It is clear that Mr. Meursault killed Zem. The extenuating circumstances of his lack of remorse on top of his involvement with Raymond and Janice's situation proves a necessity and being of premeditation. He wanted to protect his friend, so he got rid of the conflict by merely eliminating the situation. Yet, as he seems to be mentally disturbed and might have some interior issues, we don't see the point in sentencing him to death when we think his punishment would be more suiting in jail. The court hereby declares that Mr. Meursault is deemed guilty of first-degree murder and is going to be sentenced not to death, but to a life in prison. And with this, if you're good, Mr. Meursault, we will grant you a bigger window over time.
My last time in front of a window, I should just be dying. It's gonna be a miserable life. I just want the guillotine.